All right, let's talk about the Kubernetes API, but not in the way you might think. Today, we're going to dig into how it can be used for so much more than just managing containers, how it can actually become the central control plane for your entire universe of tools.
So let's just jump right in. When I say Kubernetes, what's the first thing that pops into your head? It's probably pods, right? Containers, microservices. But what if I told you that by only focusing on that, you're basically looking at the very tip of a massive iceberg?
And yeah, of course, this is the world we all live and breathe. We use kubectl for our pods, our deployments, our services, all these native resources. This is ground zero. It's Kubernetes 101, the foundation we all started with.
But here's the kicker, and this is the really important part. When our view of Kubernetes just stops there, it forces us to manage everything else, our CI/CD tools, our cloud resources, even our physical servers, in their own separate, isolated little boxes. And that separation, that's where the chaos begins.
So for this first part, let's really break down that chaos. Let's explore the actual tangible problems that pop up because of this super common container-focused view of Kubernetes.
Man, this slide just hits home, doesn't it? This is the daily pain. Every single tool has its own UI, its own API. Every system needs a different way to log in. You've got no single place to see who did what and when. So what do? We end up writing tons of brittle little scripts, glue code, just to make things talk to each other, and our teams are just drowning trying to learn a dozen different interfaces.
But there is a way out of this mess. It's time to unlock a hidden superpower that's honestly been right there under our noses the whole time, and it leads to a completely different reality.
And this right here, this is the mental shift we have to make. Kubernetes isn't just one thing. Yeah, it's a container orchestrator. That's the part everybody sees. But underneath all that, it's a really powerful generic API server. And its true identity, the thing that changes everything, it's an extensible control plane. That is the hidden superpower.
So, how do we tap into this superpower? Well, it all starts with what I like to call the magic sauce, a custom resource definition, or CRD. A CRD is just a way to teach the Kubernetes API a new word. It's like adding to its vocabulary. You can teach it what a Jenkins job is, or a GitHub repo, or, get this, even a physical server.
But, just defining a new word isn't quite enough, is it? You need a brain that actually understands that word and knows what to do when it sees it. That's the operator pattern. An operator is basically a custom controller that's always watching for your custom resources. And when it sees one, it jumps into action, connecting the declarative world of Kubernetes to all those external systems.
Okay, enough theory. That all sounds cool, but what does it actually look like in the real world? Let's make this solid. Let's move from just talking about concepts to looking at some concrete, real-world examples of this thing in action.
Let's start with a classic, Jenkins. I mean, the before state here is probably giving some of you flashbacks, teams just clicking around in the UI, configs that have zero version control, and a security model that's totally separate from everything else. But in the afterworld, where we've taught Kubernetes about a Jenkins job, CRD, suddenly everything is managed with a simple kubectl command. Pipelines live in Git where they belong, and all the security is handled by Kubernetes' own RBAC.
And that's the absolute beauty of it. All that manual work, all that clicking, it just gets replaced by this single, declarative, and totally familiar command. You're now managing your CI/CD jobs the exact same way you manage your applications. It's simple, it's repeatable, and it's all version controlled.
But hey, don't think this is just for software tools. No. This idea is so much bigger. I mean, just let this quote sink in for a second. You can manage thousands of on-prem servers with kubectl just like they were Kubernetes nodes. Just think about how powerful that is.
And this is what that looks like in the real world. You're literally creating your own API for your on-premise infrastructure. In this YAML, we're defining a server resource, and you'd have an operator that reads this and makes sure that the server at that IP address has the right packages installed. This piece of YAML now becomes the single source of truth for a physical machine. Incredible.
So what's the ultimate goal here? What's the why that makes this whole architectural shift worth it? Well, it's all about creating a truly unified control plane.
So let's revisit that chaos, right? Before, your world is this crazy patchwork of different interfaces. You've got web UIs, REST APIs, cloud consoles, SSH terminals. Each one is a different context, a different workflow, a totally different security model. It's exhausting.
Now imagine taking all of that complexity, all of that fragmentation, and just
collapsing it all down. All of it becomes
This. One single universal interface. With kubectl, you can check on your Jenkins jobs, create Git repos, describe your AWS instances, and even get logs from your on-prem servers, all using the exact same commands and syntax you already know and love.
And this right here is the ultimate payoff. This is why this is a game changer. You unlock GitOps for your entire technology stack. You get one single security and audit model for everything. You can build these amazing self-service platforms for your developers. And you get a level of consistency across your entire ecosystem that was pretty much unimaginable before.
So, I'm sure by now you're thinking, okay, this sounds incredible, but how in the world do I even get started? So let's wrap this up by looking at a practical path to begin and the grand vision of where this all leads.
Here's your roadmap, and it's not as scary as you might think. Just start by looking at your tools and finding the biggest pain points. Then build your first, simple operator. Frameworks like the Operator SDK make this so much more accessible now. Pick something easy for your first target, like an operator that manages Git repos. And finally, plug it all into a GitOps tool like Argo CD to automate the whole lifecycle.
Look, at the end of the day, this is a fundamental shift in how we think. You're moving from saying Kubernetes manages my containers to Kubernetes manages my entire ecosystem. You go from juggling dozens of APIs and security models to having one unified RBAC model and kubectl as your universal command line interface.
You know, Mark Weiser's famous quote just perfectly captures the end goal here. The Kubernetes API is becoming that profound technology. It's weaving itself into the very fabric of our infrastructure until it just becomes this invisible, assumed foundation for everything we do.
So, let's end with this thought. The big takeaway is that Kubernetes has totally outgrown its original job description. It is not just for containers anymore. It's for everything. The only real question left is, what are you going to teach it to do next?